I knew that what I had to say would stand out regardless. I was just happy to put it out there, and I knew it would have some edge. Your difference is your power, you know?
This is Writer's Mosaic. In conversation, screenwriter Jonny Wright talks to fellow screenwriter Wally Jiagoo about the meandering nature of a writing career.
It's Jonny Wright here with the Writer's Mosaic podcast, and I'm sat on the floor of my office opposite a brilliant friend, an even more brilliant writer, Wally Jiagoo. How are you doing, Wally?
I'm good, thank you, Jonny. Thank you for inviting me here to sit on the floor.
I'm sorry that it's not, this wasn't the plan, so sorry it's not.
It was actually my idea to sit on the floor because Jonny was like, let's sit somewhere comfortable where the microphone was on level. I said, why don't we sit on the floor? So yeah.
So but you can do cross-leg better than I can. Well, first I was going to say what do you write, but no, we'll start off at the beginning. Do you remember when we met?
I do, yeah.
So this was
2010.
2010, many moons ago, doing a sitcom writing competition.
It was a competition.
With the BBC and Triforce.
Yes, yeah.
Called All Mixed Up.
All Mixed Up.
And we just stayed in contact after that from then, right? Kind of.
I met you on the day that you met your wife because you were about to have a date. And you were like, and I was talking to you. I was like, hey, are you Jonny? I was like, yeah. And then we caught up and you said, I'm about to go on a date, and you left to go on the date.
Wow. I didn't know. I'd forgotten that.
Uh-huh.
I mean, for me, obviously, my future wife was a highlight of that day for me.
Yeah. However, what was weird is when we caught up on that day, I realised I actually saw you like a few weeks or maybe months before, stood on. So Jonny was, I used to live in Brixton, and I went to the post office sorting office to collect a parcel.
And Blenheim Gardens.
At Blenheim Gardens, yeah. And me and a whole bunch of people were staring up at the top of this building, and we just saw this dude who looked like he was having some sort of mental breakdown and he was going to throw himself off the building. And then after a while, I heard someone go, cut, or something similar. And I realized, oh, he's acting. And then I was paying attention. And were you rapping?
Yeah, I was rapping.
You were making
a song
music
called
video.
Icarus.
Yeah, and then I was like, okay. And then, but I didn't piece together that was you until like you were saying you lived around there. And I was like, was that you on the Yeah.
How has life and writing life been since? Because what I'm interested is maybe a lot of listeners who are kind of looking to get into writing, and at the stage when we met, when you were doing this sitcom writing competition, would you say, how experienced were you at that time? At
that time, I wouldn't say I was very experienced at all. I had a very kind of fast rise through the kind of ranks of theatre at the time. I'd never seen a play. I was 23, 24, and I think I was out on a night out in London once, and I walked past Circle Theatre and I saw an advert for an introduction to playwriting, like weekend course. I thought, oh, give us a go. I would like to do some writing, and I went to that, and in that weekend course, all we had to do was write a couple of scenes, and then the person who was running it, Suzanne Gorman, called me in to join the Young Writers Group. I was like, wow, okay, yeah, sure, why not? And so I joined the Young Writers Group, and I think on that writers group, I was something of I stood out. I was a bit of an anomaly because everybody there were like theatre student graduates or had one toe in acting or all writing other things and were really into theatre. And I was just like this working class boy from Mitcham who hadn't seen any theatre. And they were like, what, you've not seen any theatre? And I was like, no, I've never seen a play ever before. Like, why are you here? I was like, because I kind of like writing and I want to give it a go. And so we had 13 weeks course, like doing the Young Writers Group. And I think, I don't want to say that, they were all really nice, but there were a few people I thought were maybe a bit condescending. And then at the end of the 13 weeks, I was the one who had to play on. So I was like, yes, I'm back. No, it was great. So I got to play on it in those 13 weeks. And it was such good fun. And Suzanne actually commissioned me to write another play for this theatre festival. So I had another short play on, and it just kind of started from there. I had lots of little short plays, or I had plays written, but then that didn't materialise. So my background at that point, or my writing experience at that point, was mainly theatre. And for the All Mixed Up competition, that was the first time I'd ever really attempted a TV script, and it was a sitcom. Because we had to enter 10 pages of script.
Yeah.
So I basically wrote my 10 pages on the day and entered it in. I didn't have screenwriting software. I didn't even know that, aside from Final Draft, I didn't know there was even free software. So I just typed it all up in Word and formatted it terribly and sent it in, and then forgot about it. And then I got shortlisted and I was like, wow, okay. And then when I turned up, it was the biggest eye-opener that I've ever, baptism of fire that I've ever had. Because Jonny's script, you were writing with a guy called Ben, is that right?
Yeah, Ben Sider.
So Jonny and Ben's script was read out, and it was like hands down, like head and shoulders above everyone else's. It was just like hilarious, and I was like, wow, this needs to be on telly. And I'm there like, oh god, Mo's going to get rid of it.
It does need to be on telly.
Yeah, so Jonny's was excellent, and the others were good, and then I read mine out, and I was like, damn, I've got a lot to do to kind of bring up to speed. But I like to think that I did in the next 2 months to like bring up to speed, because the reading,
good.
It was well received. But yeah, that was my first intro, and I realised I need to step it up if I'm gonna try and make it as a screenwriter. So yeah, it was a good introduction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, with theatre then, how important did you feel it was for you to make up your gap in knowledge?
I think there is a lot of confidence that comes with youth and naivety. At that point I didn't feel I needed any. I was there to tell my stories, not to read the others. And as I kind of watched more plays and read more plays, I picked up and thought, oh, that's brilliant. I really like what they've done and seen, and I've learned so much about theatre. But at that point in my life, no, I just wanted to express. I just wanted to put words. I had characters that were from my life or from my walk of life onto the page and have it read out. Yeah,
I think that's good of it, because I think it's very easy for people to be put off not applying or not doing something because they don't feel like they have enough experience in there. But I think you're right. So don't let it put you off applying in the first place or doing the thing in the first place. But then it's never too late to then. I
think something that became clear very, very quickly when I was doing the Young Writers course was that there's no one else like me on this course. I think things have definitely improved in terms of like the outreach of getting working class voices into theatre and stuff. But back then I was one, maybe two, and I knew that what I had to say would stand out regardless. I was just happy to put it out there, and I knew it would have some edge. So yeah, your difference is your power,
And then you mentioned about Suzanne Gorman.
Yes.
Invited you onto this course. And this kind of links into a piece that I read about you working in the job centre. I
worked in housing benefit.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's cool. No, I mean, they're very similar, but yeah. So I worked on the sort of front line assessing housing benefit claims for a South London council. I'll just say it's Wandsworth Council. Yeah, I worked for Wandsworth Council for 16 years. Yeah, so I wrote that essay for Know Your Place, and it was all about me balancing. It was a kind of true to life memoir about my double life, being a housing benefit assessor in Wandsworth by day, and in the evening being a writer, hobnobbing and networking with like upper echelon industry types for the TV.
And the reason I want to ask you about it in relation to Suzanne is because at the end of this essay, it was like you felt like you, in a small way, were a gatekeeper.
Oh, absolutely.
Of sorts.
Yeah.
In this job. And so how important have you found, back to your writing now, how important have you found that there are people like Suzanne to give you a chance? Do you think you could have made it? Do you think you can make it regardless, or do you need that gatekeeper? Do you need someone who's going to open the gate?
I owe it all to Suzanne. If it wasn't for her giving me the opportunity, I wouldn't be doing this today. So yeah, and I needed that someone to believe in me and to kind of say, yeah, your voice matters and your stories count, and she was that person. And
I guess, have you got any, not that, I mean, to put you on the spot, have you got any solutions in improving the situation so there's more Suzannes in positions of power? Because I find if some people don't get your writing or get your story, you have like you were saying, a unique voice, working class kid from Mitcham, some people just aren't going to get that. And how do you ensure that there's more people in positions of power who will get that or get a similar type of voice?
Well, the industry's diversifying, and they've gone to lots of trouble to kind of, build bridges and make things better. And like you and I are now in it, and I guess it's up to us to not pull the ladder up to kind of to help out. But I don't know. I think about this a lot. Like, how do you diversify and bring people in from underrepresented areas? And I think like Triforce, who arranged the sitcom competition that we entered, how we met, we just need more of those, I guess. I don't know. I think it would be, I'd like to think that if I ever got to a good status in this, an established position in this industry, that
When?
when I get there, thank you, Jonny, for the vote comments. I will be able to sit down with people who are much smarter than me, who can facilitate these sorts of things, and we can work out how to do that. But when that happens, I will do that.
And so you said when you applied for All Mixed Up, which is where we met, you said you hadn't done screenwriting before. You'd done a little bit of playwriting, but no screenwriting.
It's funny because I went to film school when I was 18. And at 18, I had no idea if I wanted to be a writer or not. I just thought, well, yeah, I'll do that. And I got on.
And did you like, at that point, had you grown up, were you a big fan of film?
I loved films, yeah, I loved films. I have a very kind of cine literate kind of mind, and I have a deep knowledge of films, and yeah, so I completely fitted in. But I never got to do much writing, and I never did much writing. So it wasn't until I left university, went back into the world of like, I guess, ordinary work. Like I had, I was just, and about 2 or 3 years into just doing rubbish jobs, it's like, hang on, why am I not doing a thing that I went to university for? So yeah.
Do you think that was, if you had your time again, is that still the path you would have taken to get into writing, doing a film studies course?
Yeah, absolutely. But I probably would have done a screenwriting course as opposed to a filmmaking degree. Although I am very grateful to being on that filmmaking degree, because I know lots about all the other aspects of filmmaking. So yeah.
And does that inform your writing at all?
I can't say that it informs my writing much. I think the only thing that's really ever informed my writing is working with actors and doing. I did an acting foundation course like moons ago, ages ago. Like seeing the kind of your words read out and realizing, oh, that's rubbish. I need to read that again. And just sort of like writing makes a complete difference. What you've written, it sounds completely different when it's read out, and you realize, oh, that needs editing. So yeah, I'd say anything to do with actors has informed my writing. Off the back of All Mixed Up, I forgot about this. There was this really kind woman who worked in BBC Radio comedy, and she wanted to make it a radio series. And we were developing it for radio, and we...
Paid, unpaid?
It was paid. It wasn't like a great deal of money. But yeah, we developed it for radio, and then she pitched it. They said no, like, they just went into it, but they were like, what else have you got? So she was like, what else have you got? You got any more ideas? And it was difficult for me because I didn't listen to any like radio comedy, and there was very few things that I actually liked. And I think it was largely because it was all quite British and quite white, I guess. And not to say that there aren't things. Like, there was one thing that I listened to in radio comedy at the time that was outstanding. It was called like Continuity, and it was Alistair McGowan playing a continuity. You know, those people who kind of in between programs are like coming up after this new continuity person who overshares. He's like, so my wife recently moved out of the house and left me, and I was like, and I remember listening to it going, is this for real? Like, was it? And some people were like, and in the episode, no, this is just the most inspired bit of comedy I've ever heard. And I guess I was like, I was trying to think of the next continuity to do, but I fell off unfortunately because I could not find anything to write for radio comedy. But I used the script that I wrote for the radio to send to in for the Channel 4 screenwriting course, and I didn't get on. But the guy who runs it, Philip Shelley, emailed me to say like, I really enjoyed that. Stay in touch. So I did, and yeah. And
you eventually did get on.
I did. So the following year I entered another script, and I didn't get on. But Philip, because he's a very kind of generous, benevolent guy, I didn't get onto the Channel 4 screenwriting course, but he forwarded that script to someone at Film 4 who was looking to meet new writers, and he felt that my voice was fitted what she was looking for. So we had a few meetings. Nothing came of it, but I was just like, wow, I was just touched that somebody would forward my script on. And then the following year, when I entered my pilot, a different pilot I'd written, I got it on. So yeah.
So third time's a charm.
Third time's a charm.
Mine was second or third. It wasn't first.
Uh-huh.
And I can vouch for that for screenwriting course. I think that's an amazing, for me anyway, it was an amazing, opened a lot of doors in the industry for me.
Yeah. I wouldn't be doing this without Force Screenwriting, absolutely, because it was after Force Screenwriting or during Force Screenwriting that I got an agent. When you get an agent, you become real, don't you? Like suddenly, people want to know who you are, want to read your writing.
You had a regular job for
I had a day job, yeah.
And you were juggling for quite a while.
Yeah, like in an ideal world, when I got an agent, I would have quit my job and made writing my full-time endeavour, but
we have to eat.
We have to eat, absolutely. And I lived in London and it was impossible. I couldn't do it. So I cut down to 4 days a week.
So you've now moved to Hastings. Would you have done that sooner in hindsight? Have you been able to write more through not having the expense of London?
Life is definitely cheaper, but now I have 2 children, so expenses go where I go. But life is definitely cheaper. Like rent is cheaper. However, I was in London and I had meetings and I had to work. It was a very difficult time. I cut down from 4 days to 3 days because I was getting more work. But then it's the thing with development is like you get paid. They pay you for the things you develop, but it's not enough money to kind of keep you going, is it? And you can take on more.
The carrot and the stick.
Carrot and the stick, and you get so far, and people get like, "This is the one that's going to happen." I know. I've got great friends at Channel 4, and this is exactly what they're looking for. Like, oh, they're making something similar, so yeah, we're not going to do it. So I'm like, oh, damn. So it was always very, very tight rope, lots of juggling to kind of make it work. So when I moved to Hastings in 2018. I had a few. Yeah, it was when I moved to Hastings that I got my first gig on writing on a kids show. And
which show was this?
That was Mallory Towers. It was an adaptation of an Enid Blyton series of books. I think I'm more relieved than anything to get a job because I've been trying so hard to get jobs at places and it just wasn't happening for some reason. Mm-hmm. And then I got one, but it came at the worst possible time. Like I was a new father to a newborn, and I genuinely had not slept a night's sleep in weeks. And Julia, our agent, was like, "Do you want? We're going to start this week. Are you on?" I'm like, "Yes, I love the idea, but I'm not slept. I'm not the best for it." And she was like, "Wally, if you don't take this now, you'll never get another opportunity." And I was just like,
"So you can be very honest."
Yeah. So I took it, and
then so you have that. And how does it feel when you see it? From page to the screen.
Whenever your writing is performed, it's a great feeling. I didn't necessarily feel that so much with mine because it was heavily edited because of COVID. They had to kind of write a character out and put it in, and there was just so much. I didn't really feel like it was my voice, but I was very proud to have been involved with it. Yeah,
I've seen 2 shows of yours which you also wrote for children's TV. I saw The Dumping Ground and saw Phoenix Rise.
Yes.
And so we'll start in the order I watched them in, which I think was the order they were released. Saw The Dumping Ground first.
Okay.
Was that the one that came out first?
Yes, it was.
So what I loved about that show, well, for a start, how was that? Dumping Ground has multiple seasons before you got involved. So how do you first off tackle that? Not problem, but I guess do you go back to season 1 and watch everything? Because you wrote on, was it season 6? Or
I was in series 10.
Season 10.
So,
or maybe you'd watch them all.
I watched.
Anyway.
So my trick is to watch the season finale, watch the season opener and season finale of the series to kind of get a glimpse and then cherry pick the odd one. So I watched about 10 episodes in all. I mean, it's 10 series worth. I'm going to watch all 100 of them, but just to get an idea of who the characters are. And then when I started, they were like, by the way, all those characters have left. We're blooding a bunch of brand new characters. Like, oh, great. So I did it. Yeah, but it's good to get the tone of the show and to get an idea of the show.
And you made a character Mauritian. Was he Mauritian anyway, or did you suggest?
So
that?
I suggested that. That's what I brought to the show.
He was a character who'd already been in the show, I'm guessing.
He's been in the show for a few years. He's an Asian character, South Asian character called Sid. but they've never ever delved into his
Heritage.
He's an orphan. He's he's in care rather. And
as is, sorry for people who are not familiar with the show, that is the setup of the show, right?
yeah, so the Dumping Ground is a Tracy Beaker spin-off, and Tracy Beaker very briefly stayed in a halfway house where kids in care who haven't got foster parents are living at. Yeah.
And it's a spin-off
from Tracy Beaker.
And so Jacqueline Wilson as well?
Jacqueline Wilson, Tracy Beaker.
But did Jacqueline Wilson write the Dumping Ground? Is it a complete spin-off?
It's a spin-off from that.
Books?
I don't know. I don't think there were books.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're writing on series 10, and Sid, the character the star of your episode was Sid.
Yeah, so that episode was his episode, his star episode,
and you wrote an episode called Dodo.
The Dodo. Yeah.
The Dodo. I didn't know. So Dodos are from Mauritius.
They are.
I did not know this.
Mm-hmm. The football team are called the Dodos. Yeah.
And your heritage is Mauritian.
I'm Mauritian, yeah.
And so there was an Asian character, and you hadn't delved into his heritage, and you thought you can make a Mauritian, and that'd be an interesting. I mean, it was very interesting. I'd not seen that on. I was going to say on kids' TV. I haven't seen it on TV. I haven't really seen.
I mean, as far as I know, it's the first time a Mauritian family have featured or been depicted, or Mauritian culture has been depicted in British telly. So yeah.
Yeah, I've worked with a few Mauritian actors, and they've played kind of Asian characters from Asia.
Yeah, like Indian or Pakistani. Yeah, that's normally what we pass for. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how did that feel then?
It was great. I mean, I was so appreciative to the Dumping Ground for letting me do that, for making their character Mauritian and kind of infusing it with culture of that show to kind of showcase it.
So how did it work? Was it another writer's room situation?
No, the Dumping Ground is a very different process where you have kind of Zoom meetings with the producer, and he has an idea for the episode, and he thinks asks what you think and what you can add to it, or what element do you think you would like to interest you the most, and then you kind of workshop it via over the internet, and then you come back, like, what have you got? And like, okay, this is what I got. He wanted to do an idea about Sid going to a prospective foster parent's house, but they're grieving for a son that they've lost, that they want Sid to replace, and Sid is like, oh god, this is all a bit weird, and then Sid realises that he needs to heal the family. And what I brought to it was that, what if his family were Mauritian? We discovered that Sid's Mauritian, and what he gets out of it is that he learns about his heritage, and he leaves with a sense of pride of who he is.
And he leaves also with a flag and a dodo.
And flag and a dodo, yeah, he does. A paper mache dodo, not a real one, because they're extinct, but yeah.
How's your Mauritian heritage informed your writing?
Interestingly, until that point, it hadn't. I have always felt like our culture, Mauritian culture, like whilst we have very distinct things about being Mauritian in our culture, we're mostly like of Indian heritage. I mean, there are lots of black people there too, and some Chinese people, but the majority are people of Indian heritage, and we're Muslim, we're Hindu, or Christian, and so yeah, we're practically Indian people. So whenever I've written characters, I'm Muslim, my family Muslim, so I've always written just to be easy, just to make life easy for some Pakistani characters, because I didn't know of many Mauritian actors, or I don't know how you could do the Mauritian accent without knowing a kind of Mauritian. So it's just like, it's easy to just write Pakistani or Indian or Bengali. Like, our cultures are extremely similar, So yeah, I've always done that. And then when it came to only now am I feeling like, in this age of like we're kind of diversity, am I thinking, well, actually no, I think I can write more Mauritian characters and show what it's like to be Mauritian in the UK.
How's your link to Asia and to India? How's that informed your writing? If that was kind of like you were saying, you would normally write Pakistani characters or whatever. How important a part of your writing is that, or is it a small part? Or
it is a big part of my writing. Like I do want to write,
and it's two-way as well, isn't it? Like sometimes that's what you write, and other times that's what people want of you.
Yeah, I mean, anything I write, everything I don't think I've ever written anything that didn't feature, brown characters, for example. So everything I write is coloured by my experience and by people I know, and my experience. I'm Muslim and I'm British, Mauritian of Indian heritage. So all of that always kind of comes out, except for the Mauritian part until recently, but
Mm-hmm.
it always comes out in the characters that I write. So I feel confident writing Indian, Pakistani, Bengali characters because I know those characters very well. And like my grandma is from families from Pakistan, but you know back then before partition it was all just India. So yeah, that stuff doesn't bother me. But if somebody was going to write something Mauritian, I'd be like, no, there's a very distinct quality there, and you need original. I don't know. I think anyone who does their due diligence and does their homework and research can write any character.
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And then what about another show I watched that you wrote, Phoenix Rise?
Phoenix Rise, eh?
How was writing on that? What was your experience?
Phoenix Rise is great. I really enjoy writing Phoenix Rise because.
This is Phoenix Rise is set in a school called Phoenix Rise.
It's called Phoenix Rise, yeah, and it's set in Coventry, and it's about an underperforming school full of working class kids who are rejects from society to some degree, but they all have each other. Phoenix Rise is a dream to work on for me personally because I understand those children. I know the voice they speak in, and I don't have to write in a different voice. I can just write in my own, and it kind of fits very well. So yeah, in the time that I've been in the career from starting Memory Towers to working Phoenix Rise, I remember thinking, God, I'll never be like I can never. How does he do it? I don't know how he does it. But it's a muscle that you just work and keep active. And you know when you're in that mindset doing it, it just starts to flow and come natural. So if ever you're at feeling like that you're not cut out for this, you absolutely can be. You just got to work at it.
Yeah, and so speaking of working at it, how do you see your career? How would you like your career to go, and what do you want to work at?
My career's been hampered mostly by frustration, I'd say, thus far, because I worked for the first sort of 8 years of I've been writing professionally now for just over 10 years. I'd say for the first 8 years I worked full time and balanced out with writing, and that definitely hamstrings you. I was very hamstrung by that because I can only commit to one project at a time. Now I'm freelance, I can work a lot harder, but now I also have children, so that's kind of just there's so much to do. But my children are now getting to an age where I have more time to do stuff, so I'm looking to have a second wind and to really go for it now. But what I'd like for myself is to have one of my own projects materialised, have my own series on, or have a play on, or write a book one day. I've got so many ideas and characters that I want to share with the world, and insights that I want to share. I just want to do that.
And so now it is full-time writing for you.
Yes.
And it is working on your own project. So what would working on your own projects be? Do you still write spec scripts, or are you writing treatments and sending those out?
I've just finished a new spec script. It's a 0 draft. So 0 drafts are not first drafts. It's just like I've just got it all out on the page. It's probably crap, but I need to read it and redo it. But I believe in the idea, and I believe that when it's in good shape, it will open some doors for me again. So yeah. So I've just finished a new spec script. I've written a play that's doing the rounds at some theatres. I guess I'm just going to come up with new. I've recently become a BAFTA Connect member, which you have to kind of apply for and get chosen to be on. But
Congratulations!
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to write a short film, use my Connect membership to kind of network heartily and try and see anyone wants to direct it or produce it, or whatever.
So yeah, finally, when I wrap these things up, I like to ask people, have you got any advice to younger writers, or maybe less experienced writers who might be coming into the industry?
The TV industry.
Or the industry at large?
Just be completely bold and unafraid. Like the industry needs you. They need to hear your voices and your stories. They might be polished, they might be rough around the edges, but even if they are rough around the edges, just get it onto paper and do it. Because we need to have you in there, and you'll learn on the job.
Thank you so much for giving it your time, for sitting on my floor.
Oh, thank you, Jonny, for getting me involved with this. Like, just seeing all the writers on the website is such a I have massive imposter syndrome seeing that I'm going to be next to like Selena Godin or like Ishi Din, or these people who've written things that I love. And yeah, thank you. I hope to fulfill the promise and be a name on that page one day.
Wally Jiagoo was in conversation with Jonny Wright. To hear more writers, go to writersmosaic.org.uk.